Republican and Democrat representatives met again in the White House in an effort to hammer out a solution to the U.S. debt ceiling crisis. This meeting comes a day after U.S. President Joe Biden held talks with White House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Again, though, there are no signs of progress as the deadline to raise the government's $31.4 trillion borrowing limit ticks closer. The two parties remained deeply divided about how to rein in the federal deficit, with Democrats arguing that wealthy Americans should pay more taxes, while the Republicans want spending cuts. Former U.S. President Donald Trump will face a criminal trial on the 25th of March over falsifying business records to conceal money paid to silence porn star Stormy Daniels in 2016. Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 criminal counts of falsifying business records. A judge in Manhattan State Court announced the date during a hearing in which the former U.S. president appeared remotely from Florida. This means Trump will be going on trial during the heart of the 2024 presidential nominating primaries, when he and his rivals will be crisscrossing the country to drum up support. Russia says it intercepted two U.S. aircraft flying over the Baltic Sea. The Kremlin made this announcement late on Tuesday night. This was also confirmed by Pentagon spokesperson Brigadier General Pat Ryder. Russia said it scrambled an Su-27 fighter jet to prevent border violations by two U.S. Air Force strategic bombers. The two aircraft were B-1 strategic bombers belonging to the U.S. Air Force. The Pentagon said that the B-1 bombers were taking part in a long-planned exercise in Europe. The Russian fighter went back to its airbase after removing the foreign military aircraft from the Russian state border. That's what Russia has claimed. At a meeting with EU defense ministers, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg defended the group's call to train Ukrainian pilots on the F-16 fighter jets. This comes after the European Union's foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell said that training for Ukrainian pilots had already begun in Poland and some other countries as well. And last week, US President Joe Biden endorsed training programs for Ukrainian pilots on the F-16s. The NATO chief further called the Russia-Ukraine conflict a war of aggression and said that Ukraine has the right to defend itself. The Russian military claims that it has routed militants who had penetrated the Belgorod region from Ukraine and killed more than 70 Ukrainian nationalists. That's what they're calling them. The Ukrainian government's response to this incident was that it had no involvement but is monitoring the situation. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, now deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, said that Ukraine is lying and that the attackers deserved to be exterminated like rats. TikTok CEO Shu Zichu has called the U.S. state of Montana's ban of the TikTok app unconstitutional. The Chinese-owned company has filed a lawsuit against Montana's decision to ban TikTok from operating in the state to protect residents from alleged intelligence gathering by China. And he believes that his company will prevail in the lawsuit challenging the decision. Montana could impose fines of $10,000 for each violation by TikTok and additional fines of $10,000 per day if it violates the ban. The ban is to take effect from the 1st of January next year. China's new ambassador to the United States, Xie Feng, has said that China-US relations face serious difficulties and challenges, but he will try his best to enhance US-China exchanges and cooperation. Xie was most recently Vice Foreign Minister and in this post has been involved in high-profile diplomatic spats with Washington that have driven relations between the two superpowers to historic lows. In February, he lodged stern representations with the United States Embassy in China after the US destroyed what it alleged was a spy balloon. The parents of a 22-year-old Colorado man killed by a sheriff's deputy while suffering a mental health crisis have received a $19 million settlement, the largest in Colorado's history. The shooting of Christian Glass after his SUV got stuck in the mountain town of Silver Plume last year drew national attention and prompted calls to reform how authorities respond to people with mental health problems. Key changes in Clear Creek County's policing methods will also be implemented. The county will establish a crisis response team, and its sheriff's office will train and certify all deputies in crisis intervention. A Russian court has extended the pre-trial detention of a U.S. journalist, Evan Gershkovich, for 3 months. Gershkovich was arrested in March on espionage charges in Russia. Accused of collecting secrets about Russia's military-industrial complex, he was initially ordered to be held until the 29th of May, and now his detention has been extended until the 30th of August. According to U.S. officials, representatives from the U.S. Embassy in Moscow attended the hearing, although they were unable to speak with the reporter. The U.S. has deemed his arrest as wrongful, a term used by the State Department to deem the charges bogus and the arrest politically motivated. San Francisco Board of Supervisors were forced to cut short an outdoor public meeting with the mayor after she was heckled by unhappy protesters over the city's handling of open-air drug dealing. The meeting was held at the city's United Nations Plaza, an area known for drug dealing. The mayor was invited to answer questions about plans to manage the drug crisis in the city. However, the attendees started getting agitated, and one protester even had to be detained because she threw a brick in the direction of the stage. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been referred to police by the government's Cabinet Office over new allegations of him breaking lockdown rules during the COVID pandemic. The Cabinet Office said that it had made a referral to 2 regional police forces based on information discovered in ministerial diary entries while preparing submissions for a public inquiry into the pandemic. Johnson has previously been fined by police for attending an event to celebrate his birthday in Downing Street in June 2020. A Chilean court has ordered the preventative detention of 4 Navy officers charged with murder of a homeless and disabled man. The detention came after the release of dramatic CCTV footage reportedly showing 6 people standing around the victim on the 19th of May. One of the assailants hits the victim in the head with a crutch at least one occasion, while a security patrol is seen at the scene talking to some of the people there and then departing. The victim died shortly afterwards in a hospital. A judge ruled that the Marines must serve their detention in a naval unit during the 120-day investigation period. Several dozen protesters pelted police with objects and set cars and trash cans ablaze in Cardiff, the capital of Wales, after local unrest erupted over 2 teenagers dying in a road crash. 2 teenage boys aged 15 and 16 died in a crash involving an electronic bicycle in the Ely district of the Welsh capital on Monday evening. Police said that they were supporting the bereaved families and arresting the rioters. Around 15 officers have been injured and 11 needing hospital treatment after the riots took place. A nurse has died in northeastern France following an attack by a mentally challenged man. The incident took place at the university hospital. The medical secretary was also wounded in the attack. A team of South Korean experts is currently in Fukushima to inspect treated but still radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima power plant. The water is planned to be released into the sea. With this visit, the Japanese government also hopes to soothe concerns of neighboring countries and protesters over the matter. South Korea has sent a team of over 20 experts to Fukushima for this review. The experts are expected to hold in-depth technical discussions with related Japanese authorities based on their observations before returning home. Typhoon Mawar, the strongest storm to approach the U.S. Pacific territory in decades, has prompted the residents in Guam to stockpile supplies and evacuate to emergency shelters. U.S. President Joe Biden has declared an emergency as the typhoon draws closer. The U.S. military has also sent its ships away from that region. The storm is graded as a Category 4 super typhoon and a triple threat of winds. Torrential rains and life-threatening storm has caused nearly 150,000 people to evacuate to higher elevations. Mexican authorities have raised the warning level for the volcano to one step below red alert as smoke and ash and molten rock spewed into the sky. The volcano is located in central Mexico, is considered one of the most dangerous in the world because some 25 million people live within a 100-kilometer radius of it. Two Mexico City airports also had to be temporarily shut due to the falling ash. The yellow warning indicates intermediate to high activity in the volcano and warns citizens to remain alert and prepared for a possible evacuation. Torrential rains swept over the southeast coastal region in Spain, prompting authorities to protectively shut down schools, universities, and other public services such as daycare centers. Torrential rains in Spain have left flooded basements, submerged cars, and closed off roads in their wake. In the city of Cartagena, emergency services battled to drain flooded streets, where local television footage showed water partially covering cars and motorbikes parked there. Some locations in the Valencia region saw more rain than they had at any point in the previous 6 months. Raging wildfires in Canada have burned through over 1 million hectares in Alberta, with Australia and New Zealand set to send assistance to tame the blazes. Local officials told local media outlets that the 1 million hectare mark is a significant jump from the 459 hectares that were burned in 2022. Authorities have responded to 520 wildfires, 71 of those in forest protection areas, out of which 20 still remain out of control. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni announces more than $2.15 billion in aid to the northeastern region of Emilia-Romagna, where 14 people have died in devastating floods. There will be a recovery phase where aggregate demand and damage cannot be quantified yet. That's what she said. About 100 protesters took on a runway in Geneva at Europe's most important business jet event to demand a ban on private jets, citing their devastating impact on climate. The protest took place on a tarmac where jets from companies such as Airbus and Gulfstream were on display. They were also carrying signs and sat below the jets, blocking the entries to prevent potential buyers from getting on the aircraft. A fashion show was held at a women's prison in La Paz, Bolivia, where female inmates debuted their traditional Andean garments. Models wearing classic multi-layered Andean skirts called the polera strutted on the red catwalk, showcasing designs of shawls and other items they made themselves. The prisoners had 215 inmates, out of which 22 took part in that event. This program is aimed at inculcating skills in the inmates so that they might use them upon their release, as well as restoring self-confidence following some time in jail. Former prisoners of war from the Vietnam War gathered at the Nixon Presidential Library in California to mark the 50th anniversary of their return home. The POWs and veterans first took part in a parade where they were greeted by hundreds of cheering supporters waving US flags along the parade route. Later, an official ceremony took place on the grounds of the library, with one of the veterans saying that during his entire 6.5 years in prison, he had absolutely zero doubt that his country would never forget him and that he would be brought home. To celebrate the famous ancient Egyptian boy king Tutankhamun, the British Embassy in Cairo held an exhibition marking the 100th anniversary of the discovery of his tomb. Entitled Excavating the Archives, the exhibition focuses on the Egyptian members of the British archaeologist Howard Carter's team. The exhibition premiered last year at Oxford University and was brought to the British Embassy in Egypt by the Griffith Institute.